welcome back, biology students. I just wanted to help you navigate through your first flex day, your first solo science lesson. So we're going to use the same agenda to walk ourselves through. I added another slide so that we can separate and jump right to the day we want to work with. So we don't need to click through the 14 slides. We can just hit the day 2. And we're off and running. So the first thing you're going to do is open up that interactive notebook. Remember, you have it in the Google Classroom. And we're going to go to where we have our DQs, our daily questions. And on our daily questions, we're going to answer the question, how was your first 2 days? How has your first 2 days been? Any struggles, any successes? What went well so far? What can you fine tune? What activities were your favorites this week? So maybe I can pick up some tips from other teachers on some cool things that they were doing. Then we're going to do some online learning through the CK12 Science website, and it's about the scientific method. It's a read, watch, and do. So there's reading, videos, and something to do. And then we're going to end with a common procedure that we have. Scientists use graphs all the time, so let's start working with graphs. We're going to have a graph each week. So the scientific method, when you go to the CK12 site, here are the links to your Google Classroom. So this time I got smart. See, I learned something I could fine tune, and I have 2 separate codes. So if you click at the 4th hour link, it should go to your 4th hour Google Classroom assignment, and if you click the 5th hour link, it should go to the 5th hour class assignment. CK12 has a login, and I'm not sure if I need to use that. I've assigned the assignment through the Google Classroom, and it's my first time doing it, so I think it'll launch straight through the Google Classroom. But if you happen to need a class code, here it is. So it's going to look like this. We'll find both text, so we're going to read through this portion, and videos. So it has some embedded videos throughout the way, and you want to watch each of those videos. So you should brush up on the scientific method. I believe you've been introduced to it in the past. Within the website is also embedded practice. So when you get to the bottom of the page, in the bottom right-hand corner, you should find a link to a practice quiz. The practice quiz has 10 questions, and you can redo it, retry it as many times as you'd like. Your goal is to get a mastery level. So right here you can see your score. So if you don't get mastery the first time around, give it another try. Next thing we're going to do is the graph of the week. Here's an example of what the graph of the week looks like. This actually is the one you guys are going to do. And again, at the bottom, I've made this clickable. So if you click on the 4th hour link, it should go to your Google Classroom assignment, and the same thing with the 5th hour. So we know scientists use graphs to identify trends in data, and we use those trends to make predictions. And then a scientist would communicate findings, and you're going to read about those in your scientific method review. So then we want to look at this document that has 3 different graphs related to the flu virus, and we want to write a summary, a review of sorts. What information is gained in these graphs? So what information are the scientists trying to communicate? So when you interpret graphs, you might think about this. Here's some things. What is the topic of each graph? So the last one had to do with the flu vaccine, but what about the flu vaccine? For example, this graph, I can tell by the title, who is wearing face coverings in public? So I know this graph is about people who have responded to a survey saying that they wear their face mask in public. So what does the X and the Y represent? So in order to interpret a graph, we need to know what's on the X and the Y. So on the X-axis, we have the months from March till July. So we know that, even it starts a little bit before that, doesn't it? We know that COVID came really well known in March. That's when we let out of school, and then we had to start wearing masks in different countries responded differently. So on the left-hand side here, on the y-axis, you have the percent of respondents indicating that they have worn masks. So what's being compared? In this case, different countries. So over here, I can see Singapore, Japan, France, the United States, the UK, and Australia or Austria. I think it's Australia. I told you I don't have good vision. So we can tell that what's being compared is the different countries. What are some of the observations that you can make? So looking at the lines, it looks like Australia hasn't changed a whole lot this whole entire time. I can see that the purple line and the green line and the red line had very steep inclines at different times. So it looks like Singapore mid-March had a huge spike. And then when was the United States here? Around like the end of March, beginning of April, we had a huge spike. So that meant a lot more people were starting to wear masks. Singapore, it looks like it's leveled off. So I would predict that the number is probably not going to get any higher than that. So what do you foresee happening in the next 5 years? That's hard to tell maybe from this graph because this is just a few months. But if the trend were to continue, Singapore is not going to change much. France isn't going to change much. The United States, we're slightly increasing. Maybe a few more people will wear masks. And the UK is currently on an incline. So they didn't respond really quick. And so they've been more of a not as steep a grade in their graph. Australia, probably not much change either. Although really for this particular topic, in 5 years, probably we're going to have herd immunity, we're going to be immune, we're going to have vaccines, the virus is going to start to fade away, so probably we won't have to wear masks, so that could be not a great indicator actually. So we've looked at the upward and downward trends and we've looked at leveling off. So those are some of the things you can identify from the graph. You know, in the scientific method, you might have read about the independent and dependent variables. So remember, the independent variable is the thing that the scientist can control. They choose to change this. So we could control which month we were looking at the number of masks. Okay, so that's our independent variable. Usually the independent variable will always be found on the x-axis. On the y-axis, we typically find our dependent variable. The dependent variable is the one you're measuring. So depending on the month, we had a different number of people responding that they wore masks. So the dependent variable is, by its name, dependent on the independent variable. So it's the one you measure. So today, by the end of the day, here's your checklist. You should have got your notebook taken care of. You've done the graph of the week, and you went to the CK12 scientific method. You did the reading, the videos, and you did the practice. And I should get a recording, I believe, of your results. So that should help you through the day. Good luck. Let me know how it goes, and we'll see you later. Have a good weekend.